is very well known to all of you. He is our alumnus itself. He earned his BS degree in chemical engineering and technology. Later on, he did his MS and PhD from US. Right now, he's serving as president of American Society of Quality. He's having his own business in the name of consulting business itself, Business in, Excellence Incorporated, and it is a company owned by him itself. Besides that, he's also associated with Blind Foundation. Maybe he's a great worker, doing a lot of social service itself. And he has been talking on maybe quality related subjects, personality development related subjects, not to you students, but students coming from various other universities, IITs and NITs itself. So probably this is going to be the sixth lecture under Leadership Excellence series itself. And he's going to discuss a very, very important subject, project management. Project, he's going to give you the detail. Project is all about two project. Okay. Okay. So maybe it is just a matter of spelling it otherwise. Okay. So what is to be done in future? You have a very complex kind of thing to be carried out. How is it that maybe that complex thing can easily be worked out? That kind of a skill we have to learn. Let me tell you that project management by itself is a big course. If taught in any management school, it will be taught as a full course. So what you're going to learn from Professor Vora, I know maybe of his oratory skill, within an hour itself, he'll give you the material of 10, 12 hours itself. But to understand the subject completely, yes, you'll have to take this as a full course, and which will require probably having a lecture from him for about 30 hours or so. But to become a good, maybe proficient person in successfully managing the project, yes, what you learn, you have to start implementing right from today. After you maybe the lecture of, from Professor Vora is over. Let me share with you a kind of thought that we had from a trainer who had come from Israel. He has been providing training to us. What he says that we Indians are very good at theory, but when it comes to execution, we are very bad. Why is it that we are very bad? Because we do not understand the importance of project management. Correct? So you are going to have very, very important learning from Dr. Vora. Now I'm giving this stage to Dr. Vora, please.
Okay. Thank you, Anil Kumarji, for very kind introduction. It's a delight to see all of you in ABLT1, and a very good evening to all of you. This is a subject of great importance as outlined by Professor Anil Kumar Agrawal ji. Personally, I am in the project management space for a long time. At the personal level, well over 50 years, I've been practicing project management. In the professional side, around 40 years plus. And for the last 8 years, I'm formally teaching this course at Northwestern University. And I've also supervised over the last 22 years, well over several hundred teams in my MBA classes on total quality management throughout the world, including India at Great Lakes in Chennai, as well as number of universities here in the US, including I was the chair of the dissertation committee for a PhD in education sector. At the personal level, I managed and essentially I was the project lead for my own wedding in 1974 here in Chicago. And in 1994, we built a house and I was the project manager for it. So I've learned a lot, and the idea of this session is to introduce the concept of project and project management to all of you. And I understand that all of you are required now to take a project and make it successful during your studies at the campus. So please pay attention, and we will have lots of question answer time. So at that point, bring up any burning issues you have so we can have a dialogue on it. Now, these skills will help you to do well at the campus. It will help you prepare even for getting a placement. To finding a job is a project by itself. And then once you are at a workplace, no matter where you are, either starting your company or doing research or working at a company or in an academic institution, you will be working in teams on projects throughout your life. So this is, consider this as a bread and butter. If we can master these skills, it will serve you very well. Now, one last comment. In the 21st century, if we want to succeed globally, we need three things. First one is teamwork. That is how to work with others. That is requiring interpersonal skills. Second one, how to do problem solving. So that skills you need to pick up. And the third one, project management. Unless we have these three skills under our belt, we will not succeed globally. And the competition is fierce. And if you want to succeed, we need to have mastery on all three. Let me begin to share my presentation at this point. And at the end of the presentation, I have two short YouTubes. So I'll play those. And after that, we'll take the questions through chat box. So kindly write down your question as we go along and move it forward. Give it to the coordinators. So the roadmap for today's session is we'll quickly define project, what are the project goals and what project management means. Some examples of project management, mainly in the construction side. We'll take a look at a issue of project failures. Then there is a neat concept called aggregate project plans in a company or organization setting. There is a beautiful article written by Tom Peters, The Wow Project. We will work through that. And interestingly, that article should be shared with everybody on the campus. And it's a free article. The organizing team has a copy of it and we'll eventually share it with everyone. We'll quickly work through the project management journey, the tools, some of the critical tools. We'll discuss that. And then we'll focus on some best practices, how to manage the budget, the role of communication in project, and project means something unknown, so risk management is big part of it. And then we will just look at some of the best practice article from Harvard Business Review and MIT Sloan Management Review. So project at the highest level is a temporary organized effort to create a unique product, service, or a plan. So keywords are temporary and is something unique. That means you are doing something new. And there is a definite start, definite end. And generally the project at organization level, it cuts across many lines. So it's a horizontal slice, not the vertical silo. You are doing something unfamiliar and that is triggering the risk. And there is always something at stake when you do a project. That means the outcome is expected and you need to achieve a goal of finding a solution or come out with a finding on your project at the academic setting. And unless those objectives are met, your project is not successful. Now, here are some examples. You want to set up a offsite retreat or set up a picnic for a group of people. A few people will be involved. Organizing this Leadership Excellence series itself is a project. So group of about 20 volunteers, and we will acknowledge them towards the end of the presentation. They all work together to create the marketing plan, communication using social media, contact all of you, do the briefing. So that itself is a project. On the complex side, you want to build a medical center across many continents. So there is a person in Bangalore. He is Dr. Devi Shetty. He has started building clinics here in Cayman Islands, trying to provide affordable medical service at a very effective, in a very effective way. and his cases are written up in textbook. When I teach some of the online classes on leadership, his case comes up. And I had a chance to meet with him in New Delhi when I was there at the National Quality Conclave organized by the Quality Council of India. He's a wonderful person, figured out the best way to deliver the medicine at the cheapest cost with the best outcomes. The on a higher level of complexity, you want to manage a Olympic game, or you want to create your own movie. If you are in the IT side, you want to develop a new software. On the product side, you want to develop product or a service. And enterprise resource planning, ERP, that is a system used in the organization to collect all the information related to customer, people, processes, and that is done with IT platform and PeopleSoft and a number of other company, Oracle, etc., are the big players in that space. Now, in this picture, we'll move from top left to bottom right. The first one is the pyramid, built almost 5,000 years ago, still standing. And I had a great opportunity to visit the pyramid 4 different times between 2009 and 2010, when Hosni Mubarak was still in control, and there was sort of a decent atmosphere to travel there without any fear. Second one is the Colosseum, a top line in the middle, that's in Rome. The third one, top right, is the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, Turkey. It started out as a church, then converted to mosque, and now it's a museum. Second row, we are all very familiar with the first pick, that is Taj Mahal in Agra. The second pick in the center is the Baha'i temple, the first one built out of 8 or 9 temples built by Baha'is, and this is in city of Evanston, where Northwestern University is. The third pick on the right is the space station, uh, and that is the space shuttles, where the shuttles take off like NASA here, and then we have in India similar activity of sending the shuttles in the outer sphere. Space station, bottom left, bullet train in the center, and the bottom right is the Mount Rushmore in South Dakota, where during Depression time, the 4 heads of the presidents were carved to provide the jobs to people who were starving. So these are the monuments which are the perfect example of a successful project execution, and they are still standing. And that is, some of them were built when the technology was not there. So they used the ingenuity and muscle power to build those. And towards the end, one of the YouTube is going to focus on the pyramid, how they were built, and when the historically project management came into the picture. Now, in terms of the project, there are only 3 simple goals: performance, budget, and schedule. Now, when do you declare a project to be successful? When your customer is satisfied, you are given all the deliverables to the customer on time, project team stayed within the budget and the staffing allocations. While doing the project, team members picked up new skills and knowledge, and organization learned something new, and those teams continue to do bigger and better things. Now, I want to give you some specific examples. So when you look at the consulting companies, the McKinsey, the Baines and Company, Boston Consulting Group, Accenture, etc., the entire work they do is all project based. They go out and bid, work with different levels of management, then they come in and provide consulting support on a project team. And when the work is done, they write up a project report, which is internally archived in the company so that when similar projects pop up, they can look at this by searching the subject matter. And this is the knowledge management aspect of project management work. And they are at the master of this game because this is how they earn money. And some of them earn mega bucks, particularly the McKinsey and Boston consulting groups and people like that. Pictorially, we are looking at hitting the target or the bullseye where we are going to meet the performance, cost, and schedule as originally planned. Then your project is successful. But if any one of those targets are missed, either the performance, cost, or schedule, then that project is challenged. In some cases, you will not be able to meet any one of the three, or all three of them are missed. That's a failed project. So here we are going to look at quickly software project failure stats. Now this data is coming out of UK, where they every 10 years they publish some data. First set of data came out in 94. And as we defined, success means the project met all three targets, the performance, cost, and schedule as originally planned. Failed means project has to be cancelled. They could not meet all three of them. And challenge means one, two, or all three targets has to be revised to make it workable. Look at the data. 94, 1 out of 6 projects were successful. Fast forward 15 years later in 2009, 1 out of 3 project is successful. Rest is either failed or challenged. Now, why do we talk about software? Software is ubiquitous. No matter where you turn, whether you look at the automobile, washer, dryer, dishwasher, all the armaments and ammunition system and all the hardware, there is a computer chip running the operations of all those items we discussed. So if anything happens in software, that failure has a ripple effect throughout the economy. And here, to put it in the context, the cost of software project failure worldwide, the GDP data from 2009, $70 trillion in US dollars, uh, that the GDP, and the cost of IT failure was almost 6.2 trillion, and that amounts to roughly about 8.5%. That's a huge loss to the society. And then there are data for various parts of the world, US, New Zealand, UK, and state of Texas. Now, here comes the reality. No matter where you look in any given organization, this will be the picture around projects. We call this a graveyard of pipeline. That means there are pipes sitting everywhere, and you just replace the pipe with a project. There is a tendency to do too many projects at most of the organization, unless you have an enlightened person at the top who understands that doing all the projects is not going to bring any results. So the focus here should be you need to prioritize the projects. So you look at the upfront, and the best practice is companies which have the resources, they will have a PMO, project management officer, and project management office. That person is a staff function, and he or she makes independent decisions reporting to the highest level in the company. And their role is to look at objectively all the projects coming up for the given year, take the inventory of the project, then do the prioritization. What is important to the customer? What is beneficial to the company? And is it feasible? They stack it up from the highest to the lowest, and then only fund those projects which has the highest impact on the customer with the best return to the company. And they are adequately staffed with the right resources so that those projects have a good chance to succeed. Otherwise, you start with many projects, then most of them will be short of resources because sometimes the same resource is stretched over multiple projects. And if they are stuck in the first one, second one will be delayed, and so on and so forth. So, this is the simple guidance. You do not work on many things and don't work on everything, prioritize. And this could be a guidance even for the parliamentarians. You take on few projects which are critical, for example, this internet issue, safety and security issue, hygiene issue. So take three or four top one, form the teams and make sure that those projects receive adequate support from the administration, and then you move on. Now, this is a wonderful effort put together by two people, Wheelwright and Clark. If you do a Google Hangout, you do a Google search and put in the aggregate project plan, this article will pop up. It's a PDF file. Otherwise, you have to buy the HBR article, Harvard Business Review. Now, the story in this is this was a product development company where they were working on 33 projects in a given year, and none of the projects were succeeding. So, what they did, they decided to use this approach of aggregate project planning, try to put the projects in 5 different compartments. So, first compartment is the derivative projects where there is an incremental change. So, from the automobile example, we can think of the new car door for a given model. Then the platform project is the next generation or the next model of the car coming out. On the breakthrough projects, you are looking at a electric car or hybrid car. R&D projects, Sony has come out with a three-dimensional TV. Of course, there is not much programming, so you cannot see most of it. And then combination of any of those 4 platforms pulled together. And there, the best example I've seen is FedEx, which moves packages worldwide. They have teamed up with a company called Kinko's, which is a company where you can get all your office supply needs, duplication, enlargement, any material you need for your office supplies is there. Kinko's is open 24/7, so people can drop off the package which is picked up by FedEx at a certain time of the day, and that gets delivered everywhere in the world. And both companies are thriving because of that combination. And the company where they had 33 projects, by using this approach of aggregate project plan, they cut it down to 11 projects with some in each of the categories, and they were able to staff them with proper resources and bring the right solution and keep the customer happy and make money at the end of the day. Now, this is another landmark article from MIT Sloan Management Review. It talks about the project failure and why the projects fail. And incidentally, only about 25 to 30% of the projects worldwide are success. Rest is a failure. Now, I had a chance to teach change management curriculum to government officers in Egypt, mid to senior level government officers from various ministry would come to these sessions, 25 of them at a time. It was a 4 one-week assignments, and I did the 2 modules live in Cairo. And one of the topic I took during the sustainable change management was on project management, and asked the question, what's the success rate of your projects at the government level? 20%. 1 out of 5 projects succeed. 4 out of 5 fail. So that's a huge loss of public money. And I'm sure story is very similar for our institutes, governmental institutes throughout India. And this can be improved if we take the guidance from this particular article, which talks about there are crises of silence, and there are five of them. One is people don't plan around the facts. They start shooting from their gut and they forget the use of data and the facts. Now, Baldrige winners have given us a very nice saying that in God we trust, everyone else, please bring the data. That means data driven decision making and data driven project planning is extremely critical. Second one, project sponsor providing support. Lot of time project sponsors will be there up front and then they are nowhere to be seen, and that can create a headache and havoc for success of the project. One need to be faithful to the project management process, follow the all the discipline completely. Then should be honestly assessed for its progress and all the risk associated with it. And by the way, the best practice I've seen is weekly review of the progress of the project. And when I was with AT&T Bell Labs, we will have number of projects going on, various teams, and I've seen 50 to 60 people around the world getting on the conference call, and each one of them will have about 1 or 2 minutes to provide the status of their project component, green, yellow, or red. You don't solve any problem in the status meeting, but you receive all that input and offline you figure out where the resources needs to be diverted so that if you are in the red area, you move to yellow and hopefully go to green. So that continuous review on performance, on budget, and on schedule, are we on track or not, is very critical for the success of the project. And I put it this way, when I teach project management and TQM classes, they have to do a project and I have a guidelines given to them that you have a starting point at the beginning of the class, end point is the closing of the class, whether it's 10 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever. And in between, there are going to be review, status review milestones. And that is a forcing function to bring the closure to certain amount of work so that you keep moving. And by reviewing progress at each milestone, you are ensuring the ultimate success of the project. And if you don't put in all this intervention, you know what happens. Students wait until the last minute, and then on the very last hour, they scramble, get something done, which has not much value at the end of the day. And then the last one, the serious one, is all the team members are not pulling their weight. So what that this does is it demoralizes people who are working really hard, and some people are coasting along. So when you are selected on a project team, each one of you have certain skills, strengths, and talent to contribute to the project. So it's very important and critical to take care of your responsibility and do your bit so that at the end, combined together, your project will be successful. Excellent article. I would highly recommend it, and use the learning from this article, even focus on these five areas and make sure things are happening. Now we will quickly run through project management. The role of the project management is to integrate resources and tasks to achieve the organizational goals. And there are some great advantages. If you do good project management, there won't be any excessive workloads. Costs will not be running over. There will be building of skills. There won't be any strained relationship among team members because things are happening. Third, the other important item is prevent the scope creep. Now let me define scope creep. When you begin the discussion on the project with your sponsor, there is a boundary assigned, what is inside the project, what is not in the project, So what will you work on and what will you not work on? That is your scope. It's almost like a Lakshman Rekha. You are trying to contain the scope of the project. Normally, there is a tendency by the sponsor and the customer that as you are going along, they will come and say, okay, do this 5% more here, 10% more there. That will throw you off of your original plan. So, as a project lead and members of the team have to stand up and say, sorry, we cannot change the scope unless you are willing to negotiate and give us some more resources, open up the timeline, or reduce the performance expectation, etc. So that negotiation has to be done. Do not take on more and more with the original set of constraints. That is a recipe for failure. It also avoids duplication of work because there is a specific work assigned to tackle the issue within the project. You can make best use of the limited resources and you are able to manage your deadlines better. Now, project management is appropriate when you are working on something unfamiliar, one of a kind undertaking. The magnitude of effort is very, very large, where large number of resources will be consumed. Environment is changing very rapidly, technical, economical, political, regulatory, etc. There is a great interrelationship where joint efforts are required across various functions within the enterprise, and the reputation of the organization is at stake. Briefly, the evolution of project management officially started out in World War I. US Army developed the Gantt chart. We are going to take a look at it as a simple tool, which is nothing but the time chart. Then World War II process flow diagram came in. DuPont in 57 came up with a critical path method, which is the longest path one has to travel to complete the project successfully. We'll review that as one of the tools. US Navy program evaluation and review technique to optimize the project resources. 67 graphical evaluation and review technique using the computer simulation. Now, in 1960s, there was a big emphasis at the US government level on containing the cost, and they came out with the cost schedule control systems. And in 1970, one of the very important concept came on the surface was earned value management, EVM, for planning and tracking the projects done by subcontractors for the US Department of Defense. And the story was that people, subcontractor having a projects from the government, they were charging exorbitant amount of money. For example, for a simple nut or a bolt, they will charge $150. The cost could be 1 or 2 cents. So in order to keep control on all those frivolous reports and their project reports, government cracked down and put the on value management concept in place, and we will review that shortly. Now here comes the article summary, The WOW Project by Tom Peters. He wrote this article back in actually 1999 and reproduced in 2007 by fastcompany.com. There are 4 aspects of any project. The first one is find and create a project. Second one is selling the project. That is you are selling the value of the projects to anybody and everybody within the organization. Third, you have to execute the process. The project has to be implemented. And then the last, since the project is something which has a definite start and definite end, you need to hand it off, and project can become a program on an ongoing basis. So project is always a short-term duration, so keep that in mind. A little bit more guidance from the Tom Peters article. When you are at the selection stage of the project selection, make sure that that project matters. and put your personal passion behind it. It's a great opportunity to add value on any project you are given, and you can make a simple project a very important one. The example he gave was there was a warehouse where a women employee was assigned to make sure that the inventory levels are done well within the warehouse setting. She looked at the situation and figured out that there is a big mess in the warehouse. People cannot find the material because they were all stacked improperly. She cleverly designed the entire inventory management system within the warehouse. She got promoted and was asked to lead several bigger projects in the supply chain space. So, no matter what type of project you are given, a simple, mundane project, you can make it meaningful by using your creativity and try to bring it to the attention of the management that this is where we can do better. And that is a golden learning opportunity on a project. A 3M company known for R&D and innovation, they give a simple guidance that make a little, try a little, and sell a little. So super fast approximation to refine your wow project. And the benefit of doing this 3M way is you have made it a little bit, you try it out whether it works, and do a little bit of selling. When that product or a service takes on, then you expand the scope of making it bigger. So succeed at the pilot level and then expand it at a bigger level. Now, how do you sell your wow project? This is all part of communication, and you have to keep selling the value of your project. You have to develop a 2-minute elevator spiel, and that elevator spiel will have three components. Why do we need it? If we don't do it, what's the downside? And if we do it, what are the benefits, right? And that has to be cleverly put together, and you need to sort of memorize it and discuss it in a personal way. You can generate grassroots support and build community of endorser at the entire company level. Executing your wow project, this is where you are going to do series of rapid prototypes, the pilots, and it's instructive to focus on fail often to succeed sooner. That means in the early stages you encounter failures, you are going to learn from it, and then you are going to complete your journey faster and sooner. Think, act, live, sleep, eat, and breathe your timeline. So never give up. Keep the project fun. Don't talk it to death. We talked about quick weekly review, 1 hour only. Don't stop selling and don't lose your emotion. Keep the emotion high and be completely engaged. Last is handing off the wow project. Now, it's very obvious that you have worked on the project for whatever duration. It becomes, you become emotionally attached. But you need to turn it over to run it on a day-to-day basis. You need to celebrate the accomplishment, size up new opportunity, do the self-evaluation, what worked, what did not work, etc. And open first chapter of your next project. Very important to write the closing report. Things worked, things did not work, what could you have done differently? And that is what all the consulting companies do well, and put it up as a knowledge management component in the and they archive it for future reference. Now here is a quick look at the project life cycle. Some projects take on slow start, they gain the momentum, and then they run into slow finish. Now the shape could be anything. There could be a quick start, then there's a plateau, and then they come pick up the speed to finish up. So it will depend on the nature of the project and the kind of difficulties you encounter through the life cycle of the project. Now, I'm sure some of you may have seen this. This is the humor in project management. I know it's a little bit small write-up, so I'm going to focus on it. Start from the top left. The first picture shows how the customer explained it. That's the contraption customer was looking for. Second, top left to right in the top row, how the project leader understood it. So you could see there is a disconnect already there. What customer explained versus what project leader understood. The train has left and that's going in the wrong direction. How the engineer designed it, it gets funny. How the programmer wrote it is even more funnier. And of course, the sales executive described it to collect the maximum money they can from the customer. Come to the bottom five picks, left to right, how the project was documented. It's totally invisible. There is no documentation. Then second pick shows what operations installed. Third pick, middle of bottom row, how the customer was billed for a royal contraption. The next to it, how the help desk supported it. There's nothing to support. And then actually the last picture on the bottom right is what the customer really needed. So what's the lesson from this series of small graphs? The graphics is we need to understand what is the requirement of the customer and your sponsor for the project to start. And sometimes the customer or the sponsor will not have a good idea what they are looking for. So you really need to work on this with them so that you deliver a project which meets their expectations and the needs. Now we'll quickly work through the project management journey. The very important part of the project is project charter. Now this is like a blueprint and I'll be happy to share a template I used in my project management and risk management classes. Offline, I'll share it with the organizing team and when you share this PDF file along with the Tom Peters article, you can have the project charter template as well. Uh, then one need to develop a project plan, work together as a team, do the project, and then close out the project. Very similar to what Tom Peters was telling us in the WOW project. Now, this is one of the fundamental tool called work breakdown structure, WBS. Now, this looks very similar to an organization chart where you have the top level sitting at the highest level sitting at the top, next level, all the way down to the worker level. So think of it as there are four levels. The entire project is level one, which is then broken down into level two, then level three, and level four, where each of the components are standalone and each can be assigned to a single person. And by the way, a single person can be working on more than one component, but those are the individual tasks which can be assigned to a person. Now, metaphor for work breakdown structure is you want to eat an elephant. How do you eat the elephant? One chunk at a time. And of course, I'm a vegetarian, and I'm sure a lot of you are vegetarians, so you don't eat the elephant. But that's how the concept is described, work breakdown structure. And this is essential to start the project management journey. Next is again chart. And I would recommend that there is a great tool available, Microsoft Project software. And for 60 days, Microsoft allows you to have a free trial. Of course, the software is very expensive. Here we pay $1,200 to install the version of the Microsoft Project software. Of course, as a faculty, I get a free access, but I think eventually these kind of tools should be made available to all the students. So while you are at the campus, you play with the tools, and this tool will come handy throughout your lifetime when you work in the corporations. And I've seen my university here, they have a blanket license to give it to the students, faculty, etc., for free download, and they pay a fixed amount of money upfront. So, as a parliamentarian, you may want to look at it as a special project to see if Microsoft project can be bought for the entire campus on a license basis. Anyway, it's a wonderful tool. It allows you to do so many different things by putting in all your work breakdown structure items. Then you begin to create a timeline when the task one will start, when it will end. And by the way, not all the tasks or subtasks will start at the same time. Some will end, some will start. There will be some overlap, etc. And this is a master plan. One needs to follow this and every week review whether we are making progress on those subtasks. And when students do their capstone project or master's thesis, I ask them upfront to create a Gantt chart and they themselves monitor the progress. So I don't have to do micromanagement. They are doing the macro management themselves. Now here comes another great tool, critical path method put together by DuPont company. Now in this diagram, the objective is go from left to right. So there are four different stations, 11, 5, 4, and 8 on the left. They all come together at station number 6 and then go to station number 7. Now on this diagram, there are three critical paths. The one which is not on the critical path is the 11 going to 6 to 7. Why? 11 to 6 only takes one day, but the 5 to 6, 4 to 6, and 8 to 6 takes 1 week of effort. So you have a slack time and you have the flexibility to complete going from 11 to 6 in any one day of the week, and still project will continue. But 5, 4, and 8 stations coming to 6, they are in the critical path. They must be completing their work in that 1 week window. So once they are at station 6, it's going to take one extra week to come to station 7. So what's the duration of the critical path? 1 plus 1, 2 weeks. So this project will require at least 2 weeks, provided everything happens right. Now, the idea of critical path determination up front is that this will set the limit on your schedule, how long it will take to complete your project successfully. If you can do something innovative way to reduce the critical path, you will be able to complete the project ahead of time and making sure that your performance is still met and you are not overrunning your budget. So let me give you a practical example. When they do resurfacing of the highways and the roads here in the US, because of the bad weather in the Midwest area, constructions begin sometimes in March, April timeframe, and by end of November they have to stop the construction because winter is brutal here. We may get up to 90 inches of snowfall in a given season, minus 80-degree Fahrenheit with the wind chill. And I've seen all of that in last almost 48 years or so here in Chicago. And temperature can drop by 40 to 50-degree Fahrenheit from morning to afternoon to evening. Uh, so when the contracts are given out, the contractors have a clause with the government, because most of these are the public sector projects, that if they finish their work on time or before time, they get the bonus. But if they don't finish the work on time, then they have to pay the penalty. And of course, the performance is checked by the regulators from the state and government agencies to make sure that nobody is cutting corners and putting adulterated material, etc. Because these are the roads which can cost up to millions of dollars to build 1 mile of resurfacing of a road, etc. So these are huge projects. So always remember, when you are on a project, define your critical path, make sure your sponsor, your customer knows what the critical path is, and try not to increase the length of the critical path, but try to reduce it in a creative way, not overgoing the budget, not undermining the performance. Now, budget control. This is one of the three things we mentioned: performance, cost, and schedule. Now, there is, in reality, when you are working on it within the academic setting as a student, there may not be any cost implication. But when you work within the organization and in the companies, their money is a limited resource. You are allocated certain amount of budget to complete that important project. Now, what happens is you are going to make an estimate upfront how much it will take to do each subtask. You build it up to for the entire project, and you determine how much will be the budget needed. Lot of time people are over optimistic and they estimate time on a optimistic level, which may not work out at the end. And there is always going to be something unforeseen coming into the way, because as we said, you are doing something unknown. Unless corrective action is taken, the budget can overrun. And it's always good to come on a given project within the budget or on the budget, not over the budget. And that control is required to be done almost on a monthly basis. How many tasks were scheduled? What was the goal? Did we achieve it? How much money we spent? And is it within the budget, or we are going over? Then we have to stop. Otherwise, in reality, I have seen projects where they are very sort of gung ho and they keep spending a lot of money in the front end. Come about three-fourths of the timeline, there's no money left, and the sponsor or the customer is not willing to give them any more because they have not managed their budgets well. Now, here is the concept I talked about: earned value management from the US Department of Defense. The There are 4 quarters. Look at that as a 25 units of work to be completed. That was planned. The actual cost varied for each quarter from 22 to 20 to 25 to 25. And then the earned value, the bottom row, value of completed work was uniform, 20 units. So out of these 4 quarters, there's one best quarter, then there is another one which is number two, and then other two are not very good. So to give you the gist of it, quarter 3 and 4 are not good because you got only 20 units of actual value where you have spent 25 units. So it's 20 over 25, right? It's only 80% outcome. Quarter 2 is the best, where you had actual cost of 20 and earned value is 20, 20 over 20, 100%. And the next best was the quarter 1, 20 divided by 22. So this is how government is keeping tab on the subcontractor performance, that they are not taking them to the cleaners by charging extra money for unnecessary things. And this is the concept I think we all need to think about when we are working on a project. What real value are we getting for spending the amount of money we spend on a regular basis? Now I'll focus on a little bit on communication. We have covered the budget. Uh, Communication in general is a two-way street. A sender sends a message, receiver should receive the message, and very critical part here is the acknowledgement from the receiver to the sender that yes, I received the message. In reality, what do? We request somebody to give us something, we receive the information, and we never acknowledge. What it does is sometimes because of the internet issues, message may have got lost or it goes into the spam filter. sender has no idea whether the receiver got the message and is everything okay. Only time we get the acknowledgement, in my experience, is when receiver feels that the sender did not give the right information, then only the angry email or angry message will come. So for the success of the project, when you are working in a team situation, it is extremely critical and you need to have a two-way communication. When somebody you request some information, data, etc., when you receive it, just you have to write, thank you, everything is fine. And I'm sure some of the organizing team members I work with, you can see that's the approach I have integrated in my own communication style, that when I request something, I always acknowledge it, got it, perfect. And if something is missing, I immediately give the email back saying, please, this part is missing, can you help me? And that is the way to do the proper communication for the success of the project. Do not assume that the other party has received your message or the data or the information until you get the confirmation from the receiver. Now, most important aspect of the communication is the effectiveness. Now, how do you know your communication was effective? You need to get the feedback from the receiver, whether it was relevant, timely, or useful. Now, let me share one anecdote here. There was a company in UK which had about 1,000 people in one big building, and the CEO decided that we are wasting so much money on the email and work is not getting done because people will not do much work and they will keep ignoring the email, etc. And they were all in the proximity of each other within one building. So he did an experiment for 1 year. No email. Either you pick up the phone or walk around and see the person whose help is needed to move the project forward. And lo and behold, within 1 year, they were able to improve the performance because people started talking to each other rather than just sending the email and hoping for a response. And also, it saved money by not using the server capacity for handling the email traffic for 1 year. So that's extreme. We don't want to do that. But whenever we do a communication, particularly on the email basis, always remember screen full is the maximum people can absorb. And the rule of the communication is professional guidance is you put your subject in the item you are looking for in the subject with the specific deadline and then explain what you are looking for upfront and why you are looking for, provide the logic, and then keep additional information as attachment. Don't put huge emails because nobody has time to read and it's never being acted upon. The last component is the risk management. As we mentioned, when you work on something unknown, which is the part of the project, you are going into uncharted waters and there is going to be always a risk something will fail because there could be a delay, there could be increased cost, or you are not able to meet the technical specification because you have run into a roadblock. The good risk management involves identify as many risks as possible upfront, analyze and assess the severity of those risks and probability of happening, and one need to work on minimizing the probability of their occurrence, and you establish the contingency plan, that is the recovery if something goes bad, and allow some extra budget to deal with that when something bad happens. So here is a great tool to manage your risk. You create a 3x3 risk likelihood that risk will materialize, and the x-axis are the consequences of the loss. The three boxes in green, they are, you do not have to worry too much on those. The one in the yellow, you need to be very careful because that yellow not managed well can become red. And the three boxes to the extreme right, top right, those are the one for which you need to have a contingency plan and risk mitigation plan. Now, here is a quick guidance on how do you manage your activity risk. So y-axis is again the uncertainty, x-axis is the magnitude of the loss due to risk. Look at the quadrant 2, top right, where the likelihood is high and the magnitude of the loss is very high. You want to transfer that risk. So this is where you can think of companies giving the risk to the insurance company, which will insure your risk at a fraction of a cost, and not everything will go bad. So they will only pay when something bad happens, maybe 1 out of 100 times when they insure different entities. Bottom left, quadrant 1, both the uncertainty and the magnitude of loss are low. You accept the risk and then you manage that risk by keeping some reserve for it. In quadrant 3 and 4, you can manage the risk by developing good processes, training your people, developing good products to start, and managing the compliance and regulatory requirements, etc. And here is the guidance. So there is a risk reward relationship. If a company accepts the risk, the rewards are high. If they are risk averse, they will not get as much benefit. So the risk tolerant company, they have the great appetite to accept the risk in a managed way. So commodity products and services, and they have a high potential of return on their investment because they have taken the risk. Risk averse company, mainly pharmaceuticals, they do not want to take risk, particularly if something goes wrong. There will be a series of lawsuits coming. They'll get negative publicity and there'll be human harm, including death. So in the acceptance area, as we talked about, magnitude of loss and probability are both low. Example here is a online software company wanted to grow, so they accepted the risk by giving access to people on a secure basis, limited licenses and encryption. On the risk transfer, avoid the risk entirely. So some pharmaceutical companies do not work on developing new vaccines, and some transfer the risk to third-party insurance provider or supplier. So in a practical sense, you can think of Lloyd's of London as the ultimate insurer. So all the shipping companies, all the airlines, aircraft, they all insure their cargo, people, their equipment with the Lloyd's of London. They pay fraction of a cost compared to the value of the material they are insuring. And as I mentioned, not everything fails, except when the Malaysian airline which disappeared and then found in a water there, that plane and most of the planes are insured for $2 billion each, because when something bad happens, it's a huge loss to the company. And risk mitigation, preventive measures, properly defined product processes, employee training, making sure you are complying, preventive maintenance, you diversified or create redundant systems, your contingency plan to minimize the monetary, physical, or reputation damages from the risk events. And incidentally, this is the topic we'll be taking into a little bit more depth. Effective risk management, follow on to the effective project management on 30th of October. Now, just to summarize, this is my personal observation. So in order to get the greatest productivity at the personal level or the organization level, we need to focus on 4 Ps. And these 4 Ps are in parallel: planning, promotion, personal touch, and persistence. This is similar to Dr. Deming's cycle: plan, do, study, and act. So, without planning, and you need about 10% excellent planning and 90% flawless execution to get the best value. Without the plan, rest of the things doesn't matter. But if you just keep planning and do no action, that is also not good. So 10% excellent planning, 90% execution, where in the promotion part you are selling your project, personal touch, you are rolling up your sleeve and you are executing your project, and then persistence, where you don't give up. When you set the right goals, you persist at any cost to bring the project to a closure. And these four P's are in parallel. So those of you who are in electrical engineering, this is not a series, it's a parallel. And when one of the component is down, the overall productivity will go down as well. Lots of great resources, and some of these articles, if they are available in the library, great. If not, Harvard Business Review, MIT Sloan Management Review, etc., should be subscribed at the library level, and maybe Faculty of Management Studies may have access to that as well. Here comes the best part. I want to thank Professor Anil Kumar Agrawal ji for taking it, the LES series, under the wing of the Training and Placement Office. And he has been a great leader to support this activity to benefit the students at the campus. In the early part of the series, Professor Ashim Kumar Mukherjee, as Dean of Student Affairs, was very instrumental and helpful. And for TLC, Professor Santosh Kumar, Professor Naveen Singh Rajput, and actual technical support on the ground by Mr. Pathak and Mr. Sinha. So thank you for that. And the 20 member strong team: Utkarsh, Rutuja, Sweta, Shivam, Pratik, Aditya, Nikhil, Bharat, Deepak, Reshma, Ayush, Shubham, Kanmani, Abhimanyu, Venkat, Ashwin, Lovish, and Nayanraj. And then from Faculty of Management Studies, Arun Kumar and Neetam. I really appreciate all your kind leadership, and because of that, we are able to continue this effort. And let's have more and more students to benefit from this. And I have a sort of a vision that this kind of project management, etc., type of topic should be taught in a Swatantrata Bhavan, where everybody should be sitting there absorbing these things so that they can do well for their projects and bring the prestige to the institute, and we become the one of the best among IITs and engineering schools. Here is the schedule. We have completed 5 sessions, which are shown in green. Today was the 6th session, and we So with that, there are two YouTubes. The first one on the history of project management. I apologize, the volume is not the greatest. And second one, three episodes of benefits of working in teams. So with that, let's open up Q&A through the chat box. So I'm going to open my chat box and continue to type, and we'll take as many questions as you want me to answer. Happy to see a lot of people in the ABLT1. Okay, first question, when preparing the project budget, how to determine time value of money effectively? So I think the basic idea is when you are preparing your budget, you need to think of the work breakdown structure and how many subtasks are needed, how much each subtask will cost. So you are doing an estimating, and this estimation is never 100% right. So those who have worked on the prior projects, they will know how to allocate the proper amount of budget and the cost for a given subtask. Others will learn through the process. So you can depend on the prior experience, current data, and your overall constraints of how much budget you have. So, for example, you are given X amount of money, and then when you do the work breakdown structure, the component subtask adds up to Y, which is higher than X, then something is not going to work. So you have to readjust it to make sure that you are within the budget constraint you are given. And time value of money, basically you start planning at the current stage. And normally the type of projects we are talking about are short duration, maybe 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. Uh, and one component I wanted to share, when projects continue for a long duration, eventually they become the program. When you have many program, it becomes a portfolio. And within an enterprise, there could be many portfolio of projects running. So for a given projects, focus back onto the work breakdown structure, subtask, how much each subtask will take in terms of time, and how much it will cost to accomplish that subtask. And those two things have to be worked in conjunction in synergistic way because each one of them have effect on the other components. Next question. From my experience, which is more effective, some sponsor with lots of support or lot of sponsors, how to go about if sponsor support isn't sufficient. Yeah, so I think ideally you should have one sponsor, the main sponsor. There could be some others, more like a customer, could be internal, external, etc. But one sponsor, and this is the theory that if you are working in a given setting, and a lot of you have taken summer internship, if you have multiple bosses, then it's very difficult to satisfy them because each one of them have their own agenda and each one of them will demand maximum from you. So you are torn between the bosses and you can't please many bosses, right? Only one is enough. So single sponsor is the best approach. There could be sub-level sponsors or customers who work through that main sponsor. And this is the tough challenge. So I want to share an example with you. Man, my son was working at McKinsey for almost 3.5 years after his MBA from Kellogg at Northwestern. His last project was in the nonprofit arena, and the sponsor was about to leave the company. So he was left alone. He was pulling in somewhere between 80 to 90 hours per week of work. His health got affected, then he decided not to continue with the company. So when sponsor support is missing, that is the deadliest crisis of silence. One of the five components we saw in that MIT Sloan article is the sponsors must provide the support. If that is absent, you don't have much uh, success, and you have to have prayers to finish the project, right? So support from the sponsor is a very critical component, and you need to keep the sponsor in the loop how well the progress is happening on a periodic basis. And I've seen great sponsors at AT&T and T and at the chemical company I worked after my graduation. Those are the great leaders who believe in macro management, not in micromanagement. They trust the people that they have the ability and the knowledge and the strength to pull the project together in a group setting. And they don't interfere in the day to day affair. They allow that freedom for people to grow, people to use their creativity to find the solution using their ingenuity rather than tell them what to do every step of the way, because that is the worst thing to do. More questions? And by the way, if your sponsor is not providing support, you have to go up the food chain, let the person higher up know that you are stuck because sponsor is not providing support. So you have to take that calculated risk in a polite way, let the superiors know things are not going anywhere, and don't expect the miracle from this project. Continue typing, please.
Manu sir, I guess we're done with the questions for today.
Topic is effective risk management on 30th of October, and then the one after that is on 6th of November on effective talent management, another very important component from the project standpoint and from the success of the organization standpoint. So please try to share the word with others, and would like to see more and more people coming and benefiting from this.